Daughter's grandparents are suing me for custody, claiming I'm an unfit mother, after I refused to let them take her for Christmas without me. I, 30F, am the single mother of Clara, 2F. My pregnancy wasn't planned. I had a no-strings-attached relationship with her father, Jack, 30M, for 7 months when I became pregnant unexpectedly. He lived in another state, but would visit my city monthly for business reasons, and we hit it off after meeting in a bar. We thought about our options regarding the pregnancy, but I decided to keep the baby. Jack wanted to be part of her life, so we planned to raise the baby together, but not as a couple, just co-parents. Unfortunately, Jack's passed away during my pregnancy. Jack's parents, Linda and James, knew that I was pregnant when he passed. We already had done a prenatal paternity test at the time. We were all devastated by his passing, but of course his parents were destroyed by it. Clara is their first and only grandkid, and she became their beacon of light in a dark time, as they say. They have other 2 daughters, Ruth, 37F, and Lily, 27F, but they don't have children. Ruth is trying to conceive for a long time with her husband, and Lily is child-free and single. Jack's whole family lives in another state, with the exception of Lily, that lives abroad. They have a family business, so their life is there, while I have my family and career in my current city, where I live, with Clara. Since Clara was born, we have an agreement, nothing legal, but we all agreed with visitations for her grandparents and aunts. They usually visit Clara twice a month. James and Linda are the ones that visit the most, but Ruth also shows up sometimes. I really appreciate their presence on her life. Since the beginning, a point of content on our relationship was traveling with Clara to their state. They have a big property that's in their family for over 100 years and have a family business too. In their small town, they are treated as almost royalty and wanted Clara to experience that. I understand that it's good for my daughter to know her heritage, but I always put my foot down on the idea of their traveling with her without me. I already visited their hometown 3 times with Clara since she was born, but this isn't enough apparently. Our relationship wasn't perfect. I had some issues with Linda meddling way too much on my parenting, but we were civil until I started my current relationship. I've been dating Ted, 34 meters, for almost a year, and things are tense with James and Linda. Ted and I don't live together, and he has a daughter, Marie 4F, that lives with him. Linda has expressed disapproval to his constant presence in my house, which is not true. Both of us work a lot, and between our kids and other priorities we probably see each other 3 to 4 times a week, to Marie having play dates and sleepovers with Clara, and the list go on. The woman will find a way to comment something even about Ted's car parked in front of my house. Things escalated when 2 weeks ago I emailed Linda, James and Ruth an invite for Christmas Eve. Ted and I will have a get-together with our families and close friends. I decided to invite Clara's grandparents so they can spend Christmas Eve with her, but I also let them know that if they prefer, they can take her for lunch on Christmas Day. The next day Linda texted me that they already had plans to take Clara to their home on Christmas. I said that this was not happening. I didn't hear anything from her for about 2 days. Linda called me stating that she gave me 2 days to cool off and be reasonable. I asked what she meant, and she said they have rights over Clara and they had waited too much to take her home for Christmas. Now she is bigger and can travel without me. I said that this was never discussed and I will not let them travel with my daughter without even discussing with me before. Linda said this was the discussion before the travel. I laughed on the call and said she was delusional. Things escalated quickly after that. I was accused of trying to replace Jack on Clara's life. I also said some things that were a little cruel about Jack never even meeting Clara. After Linda hung up on me, James called and tried to reason with me. He let it slip that they bought Clara's plane tickets 2 months ago without asking me first. I said there's no way I would let them walk all over me. James lost his temper and demanded that I should apologize to Linda or we will go to court over this. I didn't back down and said they were choosing to fight over this, not me. Well, after some time of silence from them, I was served with court papers. They are suing me over custody of Clara and are stating I am unfit as a mother. I already have a lawyer who I consult before our fight over the phone. She told me yesterday they have almost zero chance of getting any custody. The most they can get is visitation, but still I am worried about this becoming a legal battle. People on my life are divided. Part of them think I did nothing wrong by putting up boundaries, and others think it's petty of me to start a fight with my daughter's grandparents when I could let them travel with her for Christmas when I know they are good grandparents and will take care of her. Ada? Some clarifications are needed. 1. How Linda and James know details about my life. How they know about Ted's car and Marie's play dates. They do live in another state, but they visit often. At least twice a month they come to see Clara, and they come to my house to pick her up and to leave her after their outings. This is how Linda realized Ted's car on the front of my driveway, since I live in a gated community, and it's forbidden this type of parking unless it's the homeowner's car. The first time she saw his car, Linda asked if I would call the security to tow the car, and I said no because it was Ted's car. They also used to FaceTime Clara 3 times a week. That's how they learned about some of her play dates and sleepovers with Marie. They called when Marie was still at the house with Clara and saw her. 2. They expected my toddler to travel alone on a plane? No. I think I couldn't explain well enough. James said they would travel to my city, take Clara with them on the plane to their state, and after a week they would bring her back. She was never supposed to travel alone, for what they were planning. 3. Do I believe they were going to kidnap my daughter? I don't know. I think it's possible, Some comments made me paranoid, to be honest. James said they bought her tickets back, but I don't think I should trust him without proof. Their word means nothing now. 4. Do I still have contact with them? No, my lawyer advised me to cut all visits, video calls with Clara, and only communicate with my daughter's grandparents through our lawyers. They are not blocked on my phone, but I will not receive any call from them. If they text me or email me, I'll have it sent to my lawyer. Trust me, today was all about making an FU binder and documenting every little thing. Thank you a lot for the advice, guys. And don't worry much, Clara and I live in a very secure community, with cameras and armed security. Nobody will take her from me. Update 1. I was not sure if I should post an update, since I was fearing being doxxed, and also I received a ton of hate through messages and people reposting my story bullying me and wishing for me to lose my daughter's custody. About the possibility of doxing, I talked to my lawyer and showed her my post, and she said that I could update if I keep the fake names and don't give up on personal details. Until now, nobody in my life has discovered my post, which makes sense since English isn't our country's first language. Having said that, I like to also preface that my grammar and writing skills on English aren't the best, since this is my second language, but I was truly appalled about how many people attacked me for it. Some people said that I must be an alcoholic to commit as many grammar mistakes and that I deserve to lose my daughter for being a drunk, which is not true. I don't drink. I know the internet can be toxic, but some people are willing to go too far to bully others. This is very low. I just hope everyone that criticized my writing skills have better knowledge than I have while learning other language. When you guys start to speak or write in a second language, I hope you don't meet someone like yourselves, who will bully you for not writing exactly in the proper way when it's not even your mother language. More than 2 months has passed, and a lot has happened since. My life was really chaotic for some weeks, and I felt that I couldn't celebrate Christmas the way I truly wanted because I was constantly worried about the custody lawsuit. I am relieved to say now that this is over. Also, to the ones worried about Clara, I thank you guys for being so gentle. TBH, I think more people were nice and gentle than bullies, so I am truly thankful for your well wishes, from the bottom of my heart. Clara is healthy and happy. Luckily nobody tried anything to take her from me. I know a lot of you said they could try to kidnap her. I'm still worried about it, but nothing has happened. After I made my post, I spent several days working with my lawyer, my family, and even with a home security company I hired to ensure that Clara was safe. All my security cameras were working, and that I had all the documentation needed for court. My lawyer and I prepared tons of documentation about me, Clara, and even got the backlogs of visitation in my gated community that proves that Ted has never spent the night here. My family were very aware about my fears of kidnapping, and they made sure to always be around us. I have to thank you guys for the incredible advices I got. I don't want to put too much weight on talking about haters, because 90% of comments and messages were truly nice and caring. I tried my best to listen to my lawyer and many things you guys said we could do to ensure our safety. Not only that, but I talked to Clara's pediatrician, pediatric dentist, swimming teacher, even my parents' church where Clara sometimes goes to the kids' classes. They are aware of the lawsuit and that nobody should give up information about Clara or me, under no circumstances. They are all on the same page and are giving us support and being understanding. Some people also advised me to speak to Clara's aunts to know if they are aware of the lawsuit and the possibility that their parents could try to take my daughter. I was not sure about how to do this. My lawyer said that I could try to communicate with them, but all via text or email. Before I could do this, Lily, Jack's younger sister that lives in Europe, texted me to ask if I had received Clara's Christmas gifts she sent through mail. I saw this as an opportunity and wrote a text explaining what was happening with her parents. Lily said she had no idea about the lawsuit or that they wanted to take Clara for Christmas and fly with her on a plane. She said that she would speak with Ruth and ask her about this, since Ruth at the time was very distant from their family group chat. A day later, Lily and Ruth created a group chat to talk to me. They asked to have a video call with me. I said I had to talk to my lawyer first. My lawyer agreed to me doing the call, if they let me record it to make sure nothing would be used against me. Both agreed, and we had a video call that was enlightening to me. Ruth apologized to me for being absent from our lives over the last months. She was dealing with many personal issues, but had happy news to share. Ruth went through her third IVF round and as of now she is around 22 weeks pregnant with her first child. She kept everything quiet, just Ruth and her husband Sam knew about the IVF proceedings and the pregnancy. She said this was because Linda used to put too much pressure and stress over her the other times they tried IVF. Ruth was distancing herself from things that raised her anxiety levels, and her mom was a main source of anxiety. Her pregnancy is a good news, but didn't surprise me, since I knew she was trying for a baby. I'm happy she finally was able to conceive. Here I have to explain that Linda is what people call boy mom. She never got along with her daughters. I had an inkling about that, but since I was not close to them, I had no idea about how bad her relationship with her daughters were. They just seemed distant and James was closer to their daughters. Ruth swore that she didn't know about the lawsuit until Lily called her the day before. That after this, she talked to her dad and to his best friend, who's a lawyer, to understand what's going on. She was surprised that James' friend didn't know anything about the lawsuit, since he is usually the lawyer representing him. James, on the other way, tried to divert the subject when Ruth asked, but she pressured him, and eventually he folded and told her everything. James claims that he didn't want to sue me, but Linda's mental health has deteriorated to a point that he feared for her well-being. The only thing that could make her get out of bed is Clara and the thought of having her around. He ignored that this makes Linda the one who's not fit to raise a child, not me. His plan was to pressure me with the lawsuit, in order to make me to accept a better deal of visitation for them. They wanted more days with her and to be able to travel with her to their home multiple times a year. James never said that they wanted to keep her forever, but I am not trusting on his words. My trust is shattered. Ruth and Sam tore James a new one for suing me over custody to manipulate me and for not forcing Linda to go to therapy. He claimed Linda doesn't accept the idea of going to see a therapist, as she is not crazy, and said that she would not go under no circumstance. Ruth had to threaten James that if he didn't withdraw the lawsuit and get the help Linda and him need, she will go no contact and resign from the family business. She was very worried about the idea of them doing the same to Sam in case she dies, and their child is left with her husband. James kinda broke after this and caved to Ruth's demands. After my call with Ruth and Lily, I was under the knowledge that the lawsuit would be terminated. Unfortunately, in my country from the 20th of December until 20th of January the courts are on break. They only deal with emergency cases, mine wasn't. Their lawyer reached out to mine to talk about the end of the lawsuit and about writing a visitation agreement that the family court would approve. We agreed to work on this, but I would only sign any visitation agreement after they had withdrawn their lawsuit for custody and only if they agree to follow my rules. For what I know, after being pressured by her whole family, Linda eventually accepted to start therapy and she is seeing a psychiatrist and a therapist. She was diagnosed with depression and PTSD related to Jack's death. I know this because my lawyer demanded that her doctors had to put an evaluation of Linda's mental state in order on our legal agreement for me to accept a visitation deal with Clara's grandparents. I never said here, but Jack's death was sudden and violent. He was a victim of a robbery gone wrong. All of us were shocked about his passing, but Linda and James took the brunt of it. I always felt that they didn't mourn enough, since they switched their attention to my pregnancy few weeks after his passing, and I was right to think that. In our visitation agreement I also demanded that both James and Linda have to go through grief counseling, to which they agreed a number of sessions. Me, James and Linda are attending virtual family therapy for the first months of our agreement, to make sure we are on a healthy space to deal with our relationship and put Clara's well-being first. Regarding to this I have nothing to complain, they accepted my terms pretty easily. They did try to fight against the idea of supervised visitation, but I had no reason to accept otherwise. Now they will visit Clara twice a month on a family center in my city. This is something my country is a public building where things related to custody of minors and family problems regarding custody are handled. They have very good security there. Those visits will be supervised by a social worker who was assigned our case by the judge that signed our visitation agreement. About my fears of kidnapping, I have to say I didn't felt validated by my country laws. Basically me and my lawyer went to a police station and we did an occurrence about the possible kidnapping. They didn't seem to take this serious and as of now they will not press charges. At least there's paperwork regarding my fears. James ended up sending my lawyer Clara's planes tickets to proof they bought her 2 tickets and were not planning on staying with her. Since they have money, I don't think it would be hard for them to bought a ticket back knowing they will not use it. So I am still not trusting or believing them. I don't have plans of letting them visit Clara without supervision. Even their aunts know that to see Clara they will have supervision too. Everyone is accepting this right now and the visits have started over a couple of weeks ago. Let's see what happens in the future. I also don't intend on traveling to their state or city in the near future. I am truly scared about the chances of they using their power to take my daughter, so I will not make it easier for them. Update 2. Wow, guys, what a whirlwind this has been. I honestly wasn't sure how to proceed after the last update. There's been so much that's happened, and as I sit here with Clara asleep in her room, I feel like everything is finally starting to settle down, well, as much as it can. It's been a long journey, but there's a lot to update on. First, let me reassure you that Clara is doing incredibly well. She's as happy as ever, and although she's aware that there have been some changes in visits with her grandparents, I've been careful to keep things as normal and comfortable for her as possible. My number one priority remains her well-being, and so far, everything is working out in that regard. So, where do I begin? After the intense drama that unfolded with the lawsuit, I honestly didn't know what to expect. At one point, I felt like the walls were closing in, and I had to keep my guard up every second. But things have taken a dramatic turn, and I think I'm finally able to breathe. Let's talk about the lawsuit first. The legal battle ended up being far more complicated than I ever anticipated, but here we are, on the other side of it. As you all know, Linda and James went behind my back and filed a lawsuit for custody, even though they were very much aware of the boundaries I had set for Clara's safety and upbringing. After my last update, I made it clear that I wasn't backing down, no matter how much pressure they put on me. I wasn't going to let my daughter be a pawn in their games. To give you a bit of a timeline, after that emotional video call with Ruth, things seemed to shift. I didn't expect it, but it seems like Ruth had a major wake-up call. I'm happy to say that Ruth and I have actually been talking more regularly now. She's been supportive of my decisions and even expressed regret for how things went down with her parents. I'll be honest, I never thought we'd be able to have a civil conversation again, but Ruth came through. She reached out to me, apologized for not being present during the legal mess, and let me know that she's been on a journey of her own. You won't believe this, but Ruth is pregnant. Yeah, you heard that right. After her third round of IVF, she's now 22 weeks along. To say I was shocked would be an understatement. She kept it under wraps because of all the stress from her mom, Linda. I'm genuinely happy for her and her husband, Sam. I know this whole ordeal has been draining on her, and I hope that this pregnancy brings her some peace. Now, on to James and Linda. What a mess. I didn't expect it, but after that phone call with Ruth, things started to unravel pretty quickly. James was confronted by Ruth about the lawsuit, and let me tell you, the man cracked. He admitted that Linda had been pushing for this whole custody thing because of her mental state, which is something I had suspected all along. Linda's been struggling since Jack's death, and while I have empathy for that, it doesn't mean I'm going to allow her to manipulate me or use my daughter as a bargaining chip. In fact, it turns out James didn't even want to go this route with the lawsuit, but he felt cornered by Linda's deteriorating mental health. He admitted to Ruth that the whole custody suit was his way of managing Linda's behavior, basically, trying to manipulate me into agreeing to more visitation with Clara. The whole situation was manipulative, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I don't trust either of them right now. But here's the twist: after Ruth threatened to go no contact with the family unless they fix things, James had a serious change of heart. He finally caved and agreed to stop the lawsuit. Ruth and Sam made it clear that they wouldn't support the family business or any of Linda and James' actions unless they were willing to get help. They demanded that Linda go to therapy, which she's now started, and Ruth also demanded that James start family therapy with me and Linda. Now we're in this odd place where we're all attending virtual therapy sessions together. It's honestly awkward, but it's the only way to move forward for Clara's sake. I agreed to the therapy, though I still don't fully trust them. It's a step in the right direction, but I'm not letting my guard down just yet. As for the custody agreement, we've finally reached a settlement. Clara's visits with Linda and James will be supervised at a family center in my city, which is a relief. A social worker will be there to monitor everything, and it's been agreed upon by both sides. I'm not going to lie, I'm still a bit uneasy, but at least I know that if things go sideways, there's oversight. They're allowed to see Clara twice a month, and I'm comfortable with that for now. As for the whole travel issue, I've made it abundantly clear that Clara will not be flying out of state with them without me. That's not happening. James and Linda are starting to accept that, even though they tried to argue at first. I've set the boundaries, and I plan to enforce them. I don't trust them to take Clara without my supervision. And about the whole kidnapping concern, yeah, I'm still paranoid, but after talking to my lawyer, we've documented everything, and I even went to the police to file an official report about my fears. While they didn't take me seriously at first, at least now there's a paper trail. In the meantime, Clara and I are safe, and things have quieted down. I'm so thankful for all the support I've received through this process. You guys have no idea how much it helped me keep my sanity during some of the darkest days. We're still not out of the woods, but we're getting there. Update 3. As I mentioned before, Clara's relationship with her grandparents has been undergoing some major changes, and while the agreement we reached has been working, for the most part, I have to say there have been some unexpected twists. Let's start with the good. Clara's visits with Linda and James have been happening as planned, and surprisingly, they've been relatively smooth. The first couple of sessions with the social worker present were a bit awkward and tense, but honestly, I've been trying to remain open-minded. I want Clara to have the chance to know her grandparents, but I also need to make sure that her safety and well-being are always top priority. During their supervised visits, I've noticed a few things that give me hope. Linda has made genuine efforts to improve her relationship with Clara. It's been nice seeing her grandmother interact with Clara in a way that feels more balanced and less controlling. I'm still a little on edge at times, but I've been working with a social worker to assess if there's been any improvement in Linda's behavior, and so far, it's been positive. I'll admit, I've been surprised by how much Linda's therapy seems to be helping. She's less agitated, more patient, and she's been following the rules laid out in the agreement. However, I can't say the same for James. He's still holding on to some unresolved resentment, and it's starting to show in his behavior. Despite agreeing to everything, he's still been trying to subtly manipulate the situation. I caught him a few times making comments that felt a little inappropriate around Clara, like mentioning how much he misses his son, Jack, and trying to convince Clara that she should call him Grandpa instead of James. It's been awkward and uncomfortable, and it's something I'm keeping an eye on. My lawyer has advised me to document these moments and bring them up during our next family therapy session. I've been doing just that. Now, on to the big surprise, Ruth. After the call where she told me about her pregnancy, I thought I had a good understanding of where she stood, but I was wrong. A few weeks ago, she reached out to me, and we had another long conversation about what had been happening behind the scenes with her parents. It turns out Ruth has been dealing with a lot more than I initially realized. Her relationship with her parents, especially Linda, has been deteriorating for years, and it's been weighing heavily on her. She told me that she's been feeling guilty about not being more involved in Clara's life, but she's also been dealing with her own emotional battles after years of IVF struggles, as well as the toll that Linda's behavior has had on her own mental health. Ruth was open about how she feels like she's been trapped in the middle of all this family drama for too long. What shocked me, though, was what she told me next. Ruth confessed that she and her husband had been planning on moving to my city. It was a huge surprise, and honestly, I wasn't sure how to react at first. She said that after hearing about the lawsuit and seeing how everything played out, she realized that she wanted to be closer to Clara and help me with her. Ruth and Sam had already started looking for a house here, and they were planning to move as soon as possible. Part of me was a little hesitant because I didn't want her to feel like she had to take on this responsibility, but at the same time, I was touched by her offer. Clara is going to need all the support she can get, and Ruth seems like she's genuinely trying to make things right with me. As for the lawsuit, well, things have been quiet on that front. After the last round of talks, it seems like James and Linda are backing down for the most part. My lawyer confirmed that they've officially withdrawn the custody case. However, they've made it clear that they still want to push for more visitation rights, and we're still working on finalizing the new visitation agreement. It's been a slow process, but I'm hopeful we'll get to a place where Clara can have a healthy relationship with her grandparents, but it'll be on my terms, with supervision in place. The court is still taking their time with everything, and we're waiting on a final ruling, but as of now, things are looking in my favor. What has been the most challenging part of this whole experience, though, is the emotional toll it's taken on me. I'm constantly second-guessing myself, questioning if I'm doing the right thing for Clara. Some days I feel like I'm walking on eggshells, trying to balance everything. I've been leaning heavily on Ted and my own family for support, and I've also been seeing a therapist to help me process all the stress and trauma from the past few months. It's been incredibly helpful to have that outlet. I can't tell you how many nights I've cried about the possibility of losing Clara, or worrying about what kind of impact all of this will have on her in the long run. I know I'm doing my best, but there are days when it feels like it's just too much. Now, as for the future, I'm cautiously optimistic. Update 4. First, let's start with the good news. Clara is doing amazing. She's thriving in school, and I've seen such a shift in her behavior. Her therapists are pleased with how she's progressing, and I've even noticed her becoming more confident and expressive lately. She's been handling the visits with Linda and James with a calm that I wasn't sure she'd have, but she's surprisingly okay with them when they follow the rules. There are still occasional moments when she seems confused or a little withdrawn after seeing them, but it's not as bad as it was before. I'm relieved to see that she's finding her own rhythm. But things have been far from smooth on the family front. Ruth's move has really shaken things up. She and Sam arrived in my city last month, and while they've been settling in, it's been a little awkward, to be honest. I appreciate her wanting to be closer to Clara and help me, but I wasn't expecting how much this new dynamic would stir up. Ruth has been spending a lot of time with Clara, and though it's nice that Clara has another loving adult around, I can't shake the feeling that Ruth is trying a little too hard to make up for lost time. Sometimes it feels like she's overcompensating, almost as though she's trying to erase the years she wasn't involved. She's been incredibly supportive, but it's been a challenge to navigate how to integrate her presence without overstepping my boundaries. That said, I've been doing my best to communicate with Ruth about my concerns. She's been really understanding, but it's still a work in progress. I think the biggest hurdle for me is learning to trust that Ruth truly wants to be a positive influence in Clara's life, rather than just fulfilling a sense of guilt for the years she spent distant. We had a deep conversation about this the other day, and I was relieved to hear her acknowledge the difficulties of her past relationship with her parents and how she wants to move forward. It's comforting to know that she's not trying to take over as Clara's primary caregiver, but I'm still trying to figure out where the line is, especially when it comes to balancing my own role. As for Linda and James, well, let's just say things are anything but settled. Linda has been making more of an effort to bond with Clara, but there are still moments that make me uncomfortable. She's been more mindful of the boundaries, and it's been a positive change, but I'm still seeing some of her old behaviors sneaking through. She's been more insistent than ever on family traditions and trying to impose them on Clara, even when Clara isn't ready for them. The other day, Linda tried to get Clara to wear a matching outfit with her for a special photo, which felt too much like an attempt to recreate the kind of bond they never had when Clara was younger. I had to step in and remind Linda that it's important to allow Clara to make her own choices. This did not go over well, but I'm not backing down. James, on the other hand, continues to be a wild card. He's not nearly as subtle as Linda when it comes to pushing his agenda. He's been sending messages to me, trying to talk about what he calls fairness, but I'm starting to realize that he's using the guise of fairness to manipulate the situation. He keeps hinting that he's owed more time with Clara and that I'm being unreasonable for not allowing him more access. The nerve. I've been keeping a record of these communications, though, and I'm not letting him take advantage of me or my daughter. My lawyer is fully aware, and we're preparing to address any further attempts he makes. What's been weighing heavily on me lately, though, is the looming custody agreement. We're still in limbo with the court, and while I've made it clear that I'm not backing down from my terms, I know that things could take a turn in either direction. I'm just trying to stay level-headed and focus on Clara's well-being, but it's hard when the future feels uncertain. I've been doing a lot of reflecting on my past decisions and whether I've been too protective or too accommodating. I know I've made the right choice for Clara, but the fear of the unknown is always in the back of my mind. On a personal level, I've been feeling the weight of everything. The constant juggling between Clara's needs, family dynamics, and the ongoing legal battle is exhausting. There have been days when I've felt like I'm drowning in it all, but I keep reminding myself that I'm doing everything I can for Clara. That thought keeps me going. I've been working through it with my therapist, and honestly, it's been helpful to have a space to talk through everything without judgment. Ted has been amazing, as always, and I don't know how I would have gotten this far without his support. He's been there to pick me up when I'm at my lowest, and I'll forever be grateful for him. Now, the most recent development. I received a letter from Linda and James, and it was unexpected. They're asking for a meeting. Not for a mediation session with our lawyer, but just a conversation. They say they've been doing a lot of soul searching and want to sit down and discuss how they can be more involved in Clara's life without causing any more tension. It's hard to believe, but I'm not dismissing it outright. I'm torn, to be honest. Part of me wants to hear them out and see if they're really serious about change, but another part of me feels like this is just another manipulation tactic. I've scheduled a session with the social worker to discuss what the best course of action would be if I decide to entertain the idea of a face-to-face meeting. I'm not making any decisions just yet, but I'm open to considering it if it means Clara will have a chance at a healthier relationship with her grandparents, if that's even possible.